So my name's Dean, I'm 19. I've been coaching for a few years with Apeuro in Newcastle. It's pretty small, about 2 main coaches in our Newcastle venue, the Centre for Urban Sports and Art, and then 2 coaches at our Newcastle venue at Infinite Air. We've got a new space coming in Hebburn, big gym, teaming up with some other groups, and we're potentially reopening our old space in Newcastle as well.
Oh, what, Middle Lane?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's reopening
as well
as
yeah.
the new development?
Potentially.
Sick.
Parkour scene it's pretty strong at the moment. We've had like a new wave of a generation come in. Some of the guys they started coming up to started in our classes. Some of the guys started on their own, like a lot of people do. There's a pretty solid number of people out every week. Lots of people training through the week, especially with it being the summer now. In terms of training styles, lots of people, it's mostly the same. There's not a big variation. There's some people who concentrate on flips, and then most people just concentrate on doing big jumps, strong movement, powerful lines. Probably because that's the kind of spots we've got. We've got lots of spots which just have nice solid sets of walls where you can just sort of smash through the whole lot. Starting with sort of what I find the hardest group to coach is like sort of the young kids. It's a parkour class. You want to teach them parkour. You're passionate about parkour, but obviously they're not actually interested in parkour. They're interested in play, they're interested in movement. So what's difficult as a passionate practitioner of the sport, you know, you're interested in seeing nice techniques, movements that you recognize, that you've been learning and you've been teaching for a long time. You want to see those. But what I found easiest is to let go of that and focus more on just getting them moving, exploring, and if you can, trying to get them to focus on a certain obstacle or a certain task. So you're better off having, what's the word? You're better off having sort of a genre for the class of this style we're going to practice today, as opposed to having, we're going to learn this vault, and this vault. But I find if you get particularly a disruptive class, you know, if you've got a high proportionate of loud, energetic kids, sometimes it can be better to spend the majority of the session not even focusing on parkour even, just to focus on a fun game related to moving through the space that you've got. Whether that's sort of, a favourite game that I like is you stand at the front, they start at the back and they have to get to you. So it's a standard playground game. Right. And every time you turn around, they have to be hidden. So it's about moving through the space and hiding behind obstacles. So you're still moving, you're still having to jump and climb, you're also having to change like the body shape to hide under things. But also this leads to creativity, because then after a few rounds of the games, the kids start to learn what's going on, start to figure things out, and then you start to see little bits of cardboard and little mats walking towards you with the kids hiding behind. And obviously, I like to encourage that kind of thing because it's creative and the kids are enjoying it more. And then once they've had that bit of play and excitement, it's easier to get them to calm down and then focus on something new now that they've gotten that energy out of the system. Yeah. If it's rowdy, having sort of a relaxed play approach means they're not fighting against you, you're more working together. In our classes, yeah, the proportion of girls has been really low, just a handful every now and again. It's a difficult thing to encourage. People's perception of parkour of being a really sort of manly, aggressive sport, when it's not always that. On a safeguarding level, I am a little bit more careful. Obviously, with all children, you're careful with how much interaction you get. But I find specifically with girls, they may be more intimidated if they're in a large group of boys, so you try and keep physical contact to a minimum to make them feel more relaxed. In terms of coaching as well, if they're feeling intimidated, you can give them a bit of extra help so that they can feel more confident, they can feel better. And then once they start to feel better about the movements, they can try harder and then they can reach their potential. I would say for girls, well, you get a lot of girls who come from gymnastics. So you can start with what they're comfortable with something from gymnastics, and you can help them push it into a sort of a parkour environment. So then they feel more comfortable to explore that way because they've got something they're confident about to start with. So for spotting anyone you're teaching, I'll focus on helping them help themselves first before it even comes into me. So I spend a little bit of time, if they're worried about something, going through all the safe ways they can bail it, how they can escape from it, working through those little issues just like you would when you were normally training by yourself or with your friends. If it's a serious sort of level of risk, you know, if it's high or if there's bars involved, or potentially put some mats down, depending on the child and the circumstances. And then, yeah, if it's high, or if they're worried and they just need some emotional support, just standing close and being ready for if they trip over, to stop them from catching the floor or whatever, just being next to them can help. I think most of the time you should step back and you should let them do it themselves. But especially, say, if you've got somebody who's new to it and they're really worried, you know, having that kind of sort of physical support can help them overcome those first few barriers. I'd say one time, so our normal structure for the session was to have 2 coaches and to split the group in half and then have half with each coach. And then we normally do that by size, so we have small people and the big people together. So that roughly makes them all the same. However, this one class, we started off with a really small number. There was so few people turning up for this class that we thought, right, we'll just have one group, we'll just take it in turns. So we started off with one group, we started going through the sessions, 10 minutes late, the same number of people turned up again. Loads of people turned up late. So then suddenly now we had one ginormous group. Because they kind of trickled in one at a time, we just kept adding them to this single group, which we were halfway through the session of, as we were progressing through, that by the end, we had a sort of an unmanageable sized group. So then you were wishing, well, these should be in 2 groups now, we should have split them at an earlier point, but we'd already committed to putting them into one large group. And that made it difficult because obviously you've got more people to manage, they're getting less turns, so they're less interested, and that means everyone's concentrating less, and that's when sort of it can become difficult to manage. When I plan a session, it's important to sort of plan a contingency in general for if say the class is getting bored, they're not getting enough turns, maybe have something safe that they can entertain themselves with while they're waiting for their turn, just to keep themselves engaged, you know, a little challenge they can have on the side before they come around to their turn, just to keep their mind in the game. And then also just being quicker to make an executive decision to split things up and sort of start again. So if you want to get in contact with the organisation, the best place to go is to Facebook for Apeuro, Parkour and freerunning, and then you can just ask us any questions there, and we can talk back to you and sort anything out, and you can just keep an eye there for any posts, any updates we have coming. If you're looking to get involved in parkour in the northeast of England, you know, in Newcastle, Durham area, then you can join the page Northeast Parkour UK. And yeah, you can just chat to anybody who practices parkour in the northeast, so you can find people to train with, get help, get advice, meet people, etc.
Sweet. Thank you, man.
No worries.